Welcome, everybody, to another Horror Corner. Hi there, everybody. My name is JPOOL, and I'm joined by my co host, LC. Say hi, LC.
Hey everybody. How's it going, everyone?
So, tonight we are going to be reviewing a very interesting film that involves radio waves, speech, and word meanings. It's really difficult how to explain it. It's more of it's a different take on the zombie genre, and I love zombie movies. I just the other day I rewatched The Train to Busan, and
Great flick.
that is an intense flick too.
That's a great flick.
I've been in a sort of a Korea swing. I've been watching way too many K dramas lately.
It fits. It fits. You went K-pop Demon Hunters, and you're just keeping it going.
Well, I mean, I was already watching like K dramas before, but there's been recent K drama stuff. But I was like, I want to also watch a horror movie, and I decided to rewatch Train to Busan. But here, this movie is a little different when it comes to its take on zombies. Uh, we have a story about a shock jockey, or basically a radio jockey, that he's played by Stephen McHattie. Stephen McHattie is a very, very good actor that I've been following for a long time. So when I was introduced to this movie, one of my friends actually told me about this movie, and I'm like, "Oh, that sounds interesting." And I watched the movie, and I'm like, "Oh, I know that guy. I know that guy. He's such a good actor." And he
What
plays.
else has he been in?
So I don't know if you are into the genre of like with Stephen McHattie's stuff. He's been on a lot of like crime, uh,
Okay.
mystery stuff and everything.
Mhm.
Um, let's see. He played a minor role in the Mortals. I don't know if you ever saw that. That was with Henry Cavill.
Mm-mm.
But a lot of other stuff he's been in are sort of like mystery, crime stuff. Let's see. I don't think you would have seen anything in that genre because you're more into horror. I know that.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
my like I go all over the place when it comes to like
Hmm.
genre films. Let's see. He did like a minor role in 2012. So he hasn't really been a completely leading man.
Hmm.
But whenever he pops up in something, it's like, oh, I know that guy. I've seen him before. Even if you haven't, don't know his name, you just notice him, and he has a very distinctive voice.
They couldn't have casted a better person. The role that he's playing, his voice specifically, as you just mentioned, it, he sounds exactly like if you flip on the radio and, dial into one of those stations, that's what you're going to get, Mazzy in the morning. We've all heard this station before, which made it feel so great.
Yeah, definitely. And when we first are introduced to him, the movie starts off a really interesting way. They start off sort of like with sound waves. Like there's just the way that it's measured when you're looking at it on um, if you're looking at a monitor about with sound waves going up and down, up and down. He starts off and starts to talk about a missing cat,
Hmm.
and now I keep seeing signs all over the place about this missing cat. And then we get to a scene where he's driving up to his little radio station in this little small town in Ontario called Pontypool. It's a real place. It's not very big. It's very small.
Hmm.
So it's a very small, town in Ontario, and it's cold. It's the winter. It's also really, really early in the morning. So there's no light out. The sun's not out. It's still dark. And he comes to a stop on the road, and this woman appears out of nowhere, just like out of the shadows, out of nowhere, and starts speaking very unusually to the point where it's like inaudible. So he rolls down the window and tries to, hear what she has to say, but every time when she speaks, he can't understand what she's saying. And then she just fades back into the darkness. Very creepy, like. Yeah, there's no like
Hmm.
magical special effects or anything else like that. And my camera just went weird on me.
I feel like you're cursed because of what we're covering.
Yes, I have no idea what just happened. That is so strange. Hold on a second.
It's
And
it's Pontypool coming through.
it is. I literally just like, that is weird.
Are you
And
gonna come back to us?
I hope I'm
We
going to come
only
back
need
to.
your voice, JPOOL.
Yeah,
We
I
only
know.
need your voice.
I know. You only need my voice. We might just have to do this without my picture.
I'm picturing you. It's great.
Oh no. I think we're talking about radio, and all of a sudden my camera's like, well, you don't need your camera. This is really weird actually, because you were just watching me, and so my camera just turned off. That's
And
unfortunate.
and we've been having technical difficulties since we started recording this time. So I really do feel like we're just going to get fully immersed in Pontypool here and kicking it old school, tuning into the FM radio.
I feel this is an issue with Discord. Because I was just streaming all last night on TikTok using the same camera, and there was no issues.
Hmm.
So this is all your fault, Discord.
Versus
You
Discord.
can't see me pointing my finger, but we'll try to make this work. So we're dealing with like this interesting situation where now Stephen McHatty's character Grant Mazzy, he finally gets to his work, this little small radio station, basically in the middle of nowhere, and apparently he was a bigger thing in the past. Like he was a much bigger shock jockey, and he used to work for a bigger radio station. But now he's at this lonely radio station in Pontypool, Ontario, and he originally got fired. They don't fully explain why he got fired, but judging by his attitude and his ego.
Yeah, there's some telltale signs like when he, it's early in the morning and he pulls out the bottle and
Oh yeah, and and especially how he treats his like coworkers. Let's see, Cindy Breyer and Laurel Ann, played by
Mhm,
Lisa Howell and Regina Riley. You could
mhm.
kind of see that even probably at his old job, he kind of pissed people off because he doesn't seem to want to listen
Yeah.
to them even when they're like talking his ear off in the producer room.
Yeah, he definitely gives off that aura of, he pisses a lot of people off all the time. But yeah, old radio cowboy, weathered, attitude. Everything's a little, sarcastic to him on this small town radio where the school snow reporting and things like that really matter to the people. To him, he's kind of blowing it off a little bit.
Yeah,
He's definitely feeling the small time for him.
yeah, and then we get to the meat of the whole story is that weird things start to happen. They have a group of people coming in, uh, I guess early in the morning to do a little like play for him in the middle of the, no one can see these people. They're all dressed up though, and to sing for him. And somebody in the group starts having problems speaking.
Mm.
Um, but even before that, they're starting to get reports of some weird things that are happening in town. People are acting very strangely, and
Yeah, there's a lot of I like the fact that that interweaves with the fact that he's dealing with this small town situation. Again, he's these things that are happening. It's just this sort of this town. It's all small time. It's not a big deal to him. He's kind of poking fun at everything as it's occurring, which it gives it a nice little ramp up for sure.
Most definitely. And it doesn't sound like he's been there for very long because he really doesn't have a layout of the land or even some of the people that even work for the station, including Ken, who, apparently says he flies in a helicopter over the town, but and that's just sound effects.
Yeah, Ken's the unsung hero, right? This movie, heart out to Ken the whole movie. You don't ever see Ken, which, a fun fact about this movie, it's actually also, it was broadcast as a radio play a la, War of the Worlds kind of style. And it's very, very similar, almost where when you're listening to the radio play, you feel like it's just the movie without the visuals for a long period of time. But watching the movie, I thought maybe at some point you would get a glimpse of Ken Loney, but no, Ken only comes through on the radio, and he just is one of those people that he feels like the good guy, the super nice guy in the community. But as you point out, he's not even in a helicopter.
No, and he's supposed to be like the lookout in the sky basically, and he's just a guy in his truck on top of a hill looking down with binoculars.
Mm,
Um,
sweetheart.
it- some bad things happen to him later on. We'll get to there. We'll get there. I do like how a lot of the events, um, they don't show them, but it's sort of inclinated or comes through with people describing what's happening, and the way they do that is on like over the phone, over the radio, some interviews that they do with Mazzy over as they patch in to the studio, and I think they did a really good job with like messing with your understanding of what is happening. Like
Right.
what is reality right now, because we're not seeing everything that's happening. We're hearing bangs against the window. At first we don't even get to see the quote unquote zombies.
Right.
We hear them, we hear the sounds, we hear the people talking, and we don't see them at first. And
I think that's one of the best things about this movie, honestly, is it really plays upon your imagination. And we were talking before we started recording, and I told you I was watching with some other people, and the movie came across a lot scarier for them just because you're having to allow your imagination to really see, and grasp that understanding of what's being communicated through these various channels, what's being reported on from bystanders and from their, fellow newsmen working with the station, and, other news outlets that report in. So it definitely gives it a more, almost a more realistic feel, because in, a situation like this, you wouldn't be able to really take in everything around you. You would be listening to reports, and so often in these, especially zombie movies today, you're getting that massive feed of the visuals of all the zombies surrounding a building, and what the lead up is. But it's kind of um, this quiet, unnerving, um, just imaginative place that it takes you, where you have to visualize what's going on outside the building.
oh yeah, and definitely really is there's some intense exchanges in here that will happen later on in the movie. um this is done in, was it 2008, I believe? Yeah, 2008.
Yeah.
I'm pulling that up. It is 2008. So we had the internet in 2008, but
Hmm.
it is not as prevalent as it is like today with how information flows.
Yeah. I
um
remember 2008
yeah.
fondly. We were still like MySpacing, and Facebook was newer as far as widespread usage, but people weren't, I don't think people were really streaming or doing any of
No,
that. It
no,
was,
nope.
yeah.
And YouTube was just like cat videos and guys,
Yeah.
drunk guys looking at double rainbows or anything else like that.
Mhm.
It was so early on in what we would consider like social media or you know anything that had to do with the information age. Getting information out right away was still mainly what for a lot of people like newspapers or radio.
Yeah.
So
I had a
yeah.
I had a BlackBerry. I had a BlackBerry, and you weren't really watching anything on it. The whole iPhone, video type of thing that was just kind of starting to come about.
Yeah, I had one too. I had also one of those Nokias
Oh yeah.
that was like invincible.
But all that, I mean, thinking about that and what's taking place in this movie, where you slowly start to get that trickle in of, news reports of that's the first thing that we would all do today. If we didn't just accidentally come across the news story when we were doom scrolling in our spare time, the first thing we would do, we'd all grab our phones and start figuring out what's going on, but different, different time period.
Yeah, and then we would try to confirm if this actually is a hoax or if this is really happening. Because if we can't see it outside our window or step outside, our house, it doesn't feel real. So if we can actually see visuals and hear things, and then it doesn't like it just it's rumors.
Right.
And here, like they have to confirm everything. They don't know if this is actually happening until they actually get people on the ground and say, "This is happening. People are dying. People
Yeah.
are rioting, and they're acting strangely with their riots. They're not typical riots. They're acting, incomprehensible. They're not.
Yeah.
They're belligerent, basically."
Right. There's I think about Shaun of the Dead and the, first sort of sighting in the backyard of the zombie girl. They're getting the news reports coming in early on, and the instant notion as well, everybody's probably just drunk. It's the belligerence is all being sort of pushed away because, gosh, how could you think something like this could happen?
Yeah, especially in a small town like this, it doesn't seem like there's much to do in general, especially during winter. And you know, at first, they think, yeah, they're probably drunk. Hey, but the police are also probably drunk.
Sounds like a fun town.
It sounds like a fun town, but it's like these reports. We got to confirm them before we say anything, and then all of a sudden we get like the BBC calling them, and the BBC is asking them what is happening over there, and like they're basically saying we're stuck in a radio station. We have no idea what's happening ourselves. But, I'm going to be completely
Mhm.
honest with you.
Right, right.
But then, like I said, some weird things start to happen. This group of people that came in to do this little radio play with them, their little off-pitch little singing performance.
Lawrence of Arabia.
Yeah.
Right.
Um, somebody in their group, a small child, just starts to speak words and repeat them over and over again, like they can't control themselves,
Hmm.
and they look confused. They don't know what they're saying, and so they're let out of the booth, and yeah, so, and we don't get to see them till a little later.
Right.
But yeah, so
Chaos ensues.
yeah, chaos starts to ensue. Like we, Ken in his, you know, helicopter in the sky, it starts to
And
report that a building downtown is being attacked, and apparently owned by this doctor, Dr. Mendez. And so we have. Hold on a second, my cat is in the background meowing. You're gonna hear a cat.
I heard that. I wasn't sure if it was a cat or the scream of a small child coming from inside you.
It's probably both. It technically is my child, but like,
You're really playing this up.
I
This
can't.
is
You can't see me. You can't see me.
JPOOL's radio broadcast of Pontypool.
I mean, I can make a cat noise, but that is not me. I would not try to mess up my review just so that I can sound like I'm doing a radio broadcast. So yeah, we have like weird events happening. The military has now been brought in, blocking all the entrances and exits to Pontypool, and this doctor's office is being literally like torn down. We don't get to
Right.
see it. We just
Exploding.
exploding. Bodies are
Mhm.
everywhere. It's being described by Ken. Ken is freaking out. Ken is played
The
by
way that it
yeah.
um, the way it was described, because again, you're having to visualize it. The way it's being described reminded me of some of the visuals from World War Z. Just like massive amounts of people, so much that it's causing the building to rip apart. Which I'm trying to remember when World War Z even came out. If that was before or after this movie. Um, Other than that, it's fully just left to your imagination if you don't have that as a point of reference. But it's pretty incredible the way they're describing all of this stuff. And that's when, the folks I was watching the movie with really started to get creeped out, right? About the time that we're getting these sort of, boots on the ground reporting from Ken Loney.
Oh yeah, and it reminds me of a lot of like I don't know if you've ever heard of have you watched War of the Worlds before?
Yeah, actually, funny enough, we just watched the movie not too long ago here, and I, of course, had to go on a whole diatribe about the original radio broadcast
Oh
and
yeah.
the havoc that ensued, and it was a teachable moment for people around me. So pulled up the original broadcast, and this I don't know where the radio broadcast for this, the radio play was done. I certainly I had listened to it before and hadn't seen the movie before. We just watched it for this review, but I'd never heard that there was really kind of that uh, miscommunication about whether or not it was a play or if it was a real, live news broadcast. I hadn't heard that, but certainly War of the Worlds was, a big inspiration for this author and this story. And I like the fact that they produced both a radio play and the movie simultaneously, just to kind of pay homage to that.
Oh yeah. Probably most definitely. And this I forgot to say at the beginning that this movie was based on a 1995 novel by Tony Burgess called Pontypool Changes Everything. So we get
He makes a cameo. Did you know he makes a cameo in the movie?
oh yeah, I did.
Oh, okay. Of course.
No, yeah.
I always try and educate JPOOL on something, but inevitably I'm just pointing out the obvious. The author though does appear when we were referencing the Lawrence of Arabia choir that comes in. He's one of the individuals that's actually in that choir singing. So it's a fun little fact for people that are watching the movie.
Yeah, it was. When I first saw it, I originally had to like look through the credits, and I was like, "Oh, okay," because I didn't know myself when I first saw it. So when the credits probably started rolling, I'm like looking at the names, going, "Huh," and then looking back, going, "Oh, okay."
I think he calls him out in it. I think the Grant Mazzy character actually calls out. I mean, he doesn't say it's the author, obviously, but I think he calls him by his name during that part because it I had to stop the movie and look up. I'm like, I know that name. Where do I know that? Oh, I know the name from who wrote the story.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he goes by Tony, so in the
Yeah.
yeah, so
Hmm.
he's credited as Tony.
Hmm.
So that's kind of funny that they didn't change. He didn't change his name just
Yeah.
for the movie.
Makes it keeps it easy. Keeps it easy.
It keeps it very easy, especially when you want to pay homage to the person that actually wrote it.
Right.
So yeah, this movie is really I wouldn't say it didn't make a lot of movie at the box office. I think it gained more fame afterwards because it just made 32,000 was it $118. It wasn't you know released in a lot of theaters, and I think that's also another
Hmm.
reason why a lot of people don't know about it. But as for horror fans, it is one of those like cult classics, and I can call it a cult
It.
classic because it was released in was it 2009, 2008, 2009.
Hmm. I wonder how much it cost to actually produce it if it made so little. And then I wonder too, what if I don't know how much radio stories may, I would imagine not that much money. But I wonder what the radio broadcast pulled in, if anything, and if money was made back on the initial project.
The budget was like $950,000, so it didn't make
Oh,
yeah
oh no.
that really hurt. That really hurt.
Yeah.
I just looked
Ouch.
up the budget and I'm like, oof. It only
Yeah.
made 32,000, but it wasn't released. It says it earned a worldwide box office. I don't think that's worldwide box office, if anything, if it's only going to make 32,000, because
Right.
I didn't hear about this until later on when it came on DVD.
Yeah.
So, uh, yeah, ouch. That's just a huge
Yeah.
loss. That's a huge loss.
And, and funny enough, too, with the terrific return on investment that was made here, I did hear that there are or there have been sequels being discussed or punted around that are still possibilities at some point. Which I wonder. I feel like the cult following, as you mentioned, this is gained traction in the community. If I certainly would hope that those, if they're ever produced, would pull in a lot more than what this made originally.
Oh yeah, and now that we have streaming, because there wasn't such things as Netflix, Amazon
True.
Prime Video, Hulu, uh, Paramount, anything else like that. There wasn't those streaming services that had studios back then in 2008,
Right,
and now we do.
right,
And this the whole like sequels. I think it was Pontypool changes and Pontypool changes everything have been floating around since 2016, and
wow,
still, yeah, and still they have not had released anything. It looks like it says they've been in active development since 2016. So,
okay,
but
someday.
yeah, maybe someday. But as
Hmm.
far as like this film is concerned, we had one of the employees in here, one of the let's see, her name is was it Laurel Ann? Yeah, it's Laurel
Laurel
Ann.
Ann.
Laurel Ann. Poor Laurel Ann. She's
Yeah.
uh she gets infected, and it's a very interesting scene where we find out that she actually is infected because her language starts to get all garbled, and then she starts repeating words, and she doesn't even know why she's repeating words. And I think the really creepy scene is when we see Dr. Mendez, coming through that window
Hmm.
to get into the
Right.
radio station, and he walks past Laurel Ann, and she's getting, I guess, her tea, but she's just standing there, and she's making a
Yeah.
weird high pitched sound. Why? Because the teapot
Yeah.
is going off.
It was crazy.
Eh,
That part I don't recall in the actual radio play. So that was one of those interesting. What in the world is this? The teapot is pulled off the stove, but the sound continues.
I think that would be really hard to describe. if you are, doing it radio play wise by saying she's standing there making the same sound as a teapot. But when you're
Right.
seeing it, like her head is tilted up one way, her, she has this weird glaze in her eyes, and she is doing this high pitch, sound trying to match the teapot and not paying attention to anything around her. It's like it's
Hmm.
like she's there, but she's not all there. And that's actually a really creepy scene in there because at first you have no idea what's happening until
Hmm.
the doctor starts to explain it. And he's like, no, "Don't get near her. Come over here." He's
Hmm.
like trying to explain um, to Cindy Breyer, who also works in the studio. She's one of the producers, and yeah, that's an interesting scene to there's no jump scare or anything else like that. It's unnerving because like I said,
Yeah.
you don't know what's going on at first, so you have to be
You have
explained
to,
by this doctor.
yeah, and then you have to sit and process it for a minute. What? And I think too, the character of Dr. Mendez, is it?
Yes,
Um, his character to me, I don't know if maybe it was a little too, on the nose of kind of this, yeah, this archetype doctor character. Um, but he really softened the movie a lot for me. I think you needed his character to do a lot of the bridging and, complete some of the storyline. But he pulls out some of the fear for me, with his explanations and even just his, um, kind of, he sounds a little bit like, Einstein or something. He's very, intellectual. And did they ever say what type of doctor he was? Was he a psychologist or?
it sounds like he could be. Now I'm looking back. I don't
What do
even
you
remember.
think?
I don't even remember if they actually even describe exactly what type of doctor he is. I know
Yeah.
I know he's Armenian.
Hmm.
And that will actually play
Yeah.
that plays in a very important role because whatever is infecting people is affecting the English language,
Right.
which is kind of
That
interesting.
It's very interesting. I after I watched this movie, I went down a dark, deep rabbit hole for much of the weekend, thinking about, just other sort of, other constructs of this narrative, and, and again, here we are in 2025. It feels like 2008 wasn't that long ago, but when you think about it, it was quite a while ago. Um, and we had Howard Stern back then, right? You've kind of always had Rush Limbaugh, kind of always these shock jocks, but the English language being um,
The focal point.
the way in which, right, the way in which all this, because and having it, the whole story revolve around this shock jock, it started making me, ponder, is this, telling a tale of also, our culture, and how, you have a lot of, strong narratives out there, and, does that narrative, be it the mass media and all of the, what some people think is, we're on Horror Corner, some stuff people think is depraved, or, strong narratives in politics and all of that, is that, potentially infecting people in a certain way. I really thought probably a lot deeper about this entire movie after watching it. Um, it and I wonder, I haven't looked to see if the author was thinking about these things when he wrote the movie or not, but it's really interesting that it is the English language. It is this kind of, Howard Stern would be really, who you'd compare him to back in 2008, I guess. Shock jock. Is there some sort of story to tell there outside of, just kind of this, general narrative in this movie?
Oh yeah, I think there is a lot they're trying to do in a sort of a commentary on just how language in general, especially the English language, can be used for good or bad, especially when
Mhm.
it comes to the media.
Right.
In here we have somebody who has lived their career um, trying to get the most extreme stories and say and present them in the best way possible. But sometimes maybe because of his his background or his ego and everything, it got him fired at his last job. And here he is in this lowly little town in this radio station in the middle of nowhere, speaking to hopefully people listening early in the morning. And this event occurs, and this movie in general, when it comes to the English language being infected, you have to think about it in these terms of words have meaning to or different meanings to different people. When you call somebody a Nazi or you call somebody racist, when we repeat these words over and over and over again, a lot of times they start to lose their original meaning. So
Hmm.
we have to be very careful how we use words because their original meanings could actually start to lose their meaning over time. And we will, and we'll keep saying these words over and over again in, later generations, and they'll mean something else. Back in the day, back in the 50s and 60s, or even in the 40s, having a gay old time meant something completely different than
Right.
what we say, what a gay old time means today. It's a
Hmm.
little, yeah, a little thing out of the little Flintstones. We'll have a gay old time, and
All the memories.
yeah. So word, I like studying etymology, which is the study of words,
Hmm.
the history and the study of words. And you go further back in history, and words that were used back then mean something completely today, or words that were used back then we don't even use those words anymore. uh,
Right.
because they just don't mesh with today's society, or they mean something completely different. A cigarette in Europe means something completely different in America. I'm
Hmm.
not going to say the
Hmm.
word because I don't want to offend
Right.
my listeners. I was going
Funny
to say
enough.
yeah, I was going to say viewers, but they can't see my face right now.
Mhm.
My
Right. Right.
so I don't want to offend anybody particularly, but if you're over in England and somebody asks you for a cigarette, they're going to ask you for something else. And
Right.
you're going to go, "How dare you? That's offensive." Like, no, that's just what we call it.
Hmm.
It's their F word.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. It's with this the telling of this story. It doesn't. I don't know. I don't even think it really implies it necessarily, except for when you reflect on kind of the strange beginning of the story. Because as you're tuning in, like you mentioned, you have the sound waves and this sort of description of, this missing cat, which again, kudos to you for also bringing in the cat sound effects earlier. But it makes me wonder if they're implying perhaps that Grant, our shock jock, is the one that started the virus potentially. Maybe that's what we'll learn in a sequel or prequel or something in the future. But because you're hearing him at the beginning and it's his sound waves, and then we learn that it's the English language. And, as you think through this shock jock idea, I don't know, did you pick up on that or did I just, my mind spiral far too much on this?
I never saw it as he was the origin of the virus. I think he was, I guess in the end he was the quote unquote solution, depending on which which ending you want to go with, that ending or the
Right.
alternate ending,
Hmm.
which is the radio alternate ending,
Hmm.
but which actually works more into like horror endings when it comes to like if it's a happy ending or if it's like a tragic ending. But no,
Right.
I never saw him. I never saw him as the originator of the virus. I would say he was just brought in and kind of confused on exactly what's happening. Like, what is going
Hmm.
on? I'm just getting these constant news reports that I'm having to report on, and it sounds like people are acting, strangely, and there's a lot of violence involved, and no one can tell us why things are happening.
Yeah, it's it definitely makes you, as you watch the movie, as these things are unraveling, as you see Laurel Ann kind of confronting her own issues with the virus. And there's a scene where you have Grant and Sydney, is it? Which I also read that they're married in real life, which is kind of cool because they have a moment. Um, but there's this whole narrative where, as you were talking about, with just words over time losing their meaning or changing their meaning, that's what they start to uncover, is that potentially the word meaning being lost might potentially be the cure for this virus. And how many times have you written something down and you looked at it and like, what? And it's a word that you've written down a million times and it just suddenly doesn't look right. Or you say a word so many times that it stops making sense to your brain for a brief second, and you have to pause and think about, is that, what am I saying, is that even the right word? I liked the fact that that wound up being our solution in this movie. It Because it's something I think everybody experiences it. I certainly experience it from time to time.
Oh yeah, so do I. And like I was saying, how words change their meaning over time. We could say, back in, what was it, the 2010s, maybe even before that, saying a girl she has a fat ass. Well, fat as a PHATT,
Hmm.
whatever, the spelling of it is. Uh, it's still pronounced fat as in FAT, but it means that, I like them big. I like them, round. I like big butts. As Sir Mix-a-Lot would say. But
Gonna say it's your mix a lot, ladies and gentlemen.
yes, but we have to,
Mhm.
we also have to be careful with words as well, because
Right.
so, like I said earlier, some words in some countries can offend some people because they mean different things, and especially with the English language. The English language is very vast. I talked to a bunch of foreigners before, and they said English language it's one of the easier languages to learn because it's so widespread across the world, and yet it is also very complicated because for other languages, and like especially Asian languages and some European languages, they get to the point there with some
Mhm.
of their sentences or the way they speak, and when you actually translate it into English, if you translate it exactly the way it's put down on paper, if they're like German or anything else like that, it sounds really confusing when you translate into English. So that you have to
Mhm.
you have to like shift it around and go like, okay, so in like Japan, some words end, like with it's des, or desu. So it'd be like something something des, but like it's is at the very end. But we would put the it's at the beginning if we,
Mhm.
or she, or him or he. And if we translate it directly from English, it would look very confusing. So if you're ever in Japan or ever in any Asian country and you see a sign that's translated into English for English speakers and wonder, why does that looks like very poor grammar? It's like because they directly translated that from those languages to English without correcting the grammar for, English grammar. It's just like directly translated, and you're like, that's so confusing. I know what they're going
Mhm.
for, but like you look at it for a second, going, huh. But
Yeah.
here we have, the doctor starts to speak Armenian, which at first when he's speaking, he's uh, you know they're starting to freak out. They're like, oh shoot, he's infected.
Hmm.
just like Laurel, like and poor Laurel Ann, it's like she has such a brutal death in here.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, it's just like it's kind of sad because we get to know her a little bit, and then she gets infected, and then she starts to try to rush the window of the the soundproof
Down.
studio room, and that window is like bulletproof or something, but she slams it really hard and keeps running into
Yeah.
it, and you just have to keep watching her get more bruised up, her face getting more busted in, and it's like oof. And then actually
Yeah.
bites part of her lip, the bottom lip, off. If you watch very carefully.
The effects on that too were pretty good. You don't often when you see people in movies that have just been injured. I don't feel like a lot of times they really try to capture the swelling piece of it. And I never noticed that until actually watching this movie. I'm like, wow, she looks super swollen in the face, which is exactly what you would look like if you beat your face against something repeatedly. But I thought they did a pretty good job on the effects there too. And yeah, she's the hometown hero. She's the nice one that um, it doesn't, bust Grant as much about, his sort of wayward storytelling. And so you kind of have an affinity for her from the beginning. You feel like, well, she's going to be the survivor in the movie for sure. And nope, she doesn't make it.
Oh yeah, when she was like throwing herself against the window and constantly, beating herself up, reminded me of our last review we did, Until Dawn, where
Hmm.
was it Megan? We
Poor
kept getting her
Megan.
face smashed into the floor repeatedly,
Yeah.
and that like practical effect was like very effective.
Yeah. Aw. It's a twofer, week over week. The nice girl gets it, unfortunately, in these movies.
Oh yeah, and like I said earlier, we at the beginning we only get to like hear a little bit about the crowd, because they start to surround the radio station, and they start repeating what everybody else is saying, like even when we're trying to imitate Cindy Breyer's voice, and it's really creepy because you can only see like shadows and like coming off the window and banging,
Hmm.
and then you hear the voices come out. So it leaves a lot to your imagination, like what the heck is happening, what is going on.
Hmm.
um and that's sometimes can be even scarier because
Right.
you're just imagining what it looks like, what these people are look like. They might be all mangled and messed up, and they don't even know it because they just keep going. They could be hit by a car and they
Right.
could just keep going. And we we get to a point where now they're all like stuck at this radio station. They're being surrounded. The military is starting, their bombardment of the town, trying to quarantine this thing. They don't know what's going on themselves. And now that, let's see, yeah, now that they're just like three people in there. The group that was in there that was doing their little play, they all have been infected.
Mhm.
They had to kill that poor little girl.
Right. Right. That was pretty brutal. There was like kind of a funny little exchange in there with the I didn't kill you killed her.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to own that. Nobody wants to own killing the child, of course, but yeah.
I mean, they do it off screen.
It's so subtle. Mhm.
They do it off screen. I think they stomped her head in.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely off screen, but pretty brutal. I like when you have kind of those little light lines in a movie to break up the tension a little bit.
Oh yeah. And then we get sort of a hero moment for Dr. Mendez trying to be sort of a decoy so that the other two can sort of get away or get to safety. Um, and R.I.P. to him.
Yeah,
He's a hero. Go Dr.
yeah,
Mendez.
yeah. He's like in and out of that window in this movie, like a little like a little rodent climbing in and out. I don't know. Do you I chose to believe that he made it.
If you hear him in the background, I think he does get ripped apart though. He starts. He
Okay.
start. I hear screams, and it's not the people's screams.
Oh,
And if it is the people's
oh.
screams, they're imitating him.
See,
Um,
that's the fun of using your imagination on these things. You can
yeah.
you can paint whatever picture you want, and I'm saying no, he made it.
Personally, I think the death that really is kind of probably the saddest one, and I like Laurel Ann and everything, and it's sad what happened to her. I think it's
Mhm.
Ken. We were talking about Ken earlier,
Yeah,
and I think because we only get to hear Ken's voice, and
right, right.
his death, the
It's,
way they, or his well, not exactly death, but his loss because he becomes one of them, one of the zombies, or I'm just going to call them like sound zombies.
yeah, yeah.
um, his loss is actually really sad because he's there for probably like 70% of the film, on and off, the phone with Mazzy, and when he starts to repeat words and doesn't know what's happening to himself. It's
Yeah,
really sad. You're going, no, not
it is.
Ken. Ken survived.
It, well, and they give that backstory earlier, which kind of makes you sympathetic to him in some sort of way. That he's not in a chopper, he just has sound effects, and it just feels like such a, that great, nice, simple guy in town that's, doing the work for the community. And he comes back so many times that I don't know. There was a couple of times where I'm like, oh, he's a goner. We're not going to hear back from Ken. But no, he calls back in. So you're right. When he succumbs, I guess, and I'm trying to remember I can't remember what word he started to repeat, but he does, and he's confused. And I think that
I think it's
the
sample.
confusion piece,
I think it's sample.
sample, yeah, sample. And it's the confusion, I think, in his voice that is the saddest part of it. I mean, I don't know. It's an emotion evoking feeling when somebody that you start to care about feels confused and frightened, and that's definitely what you pick up. So yeah, you don't see it. You you don't even really. I mean, you don't hear the screams of Dr. Mendez or any of that. It's just this repeating word, and then they sort of close him out of the broadcast, kind of pay him honors, which is it gives it that feeling of finalization, or the end. But yeah, that's a super sad moment for Ken. R.I.P. Ken.
R.I.P. It reminds me, unfortunately, of somebody like with dementia or Alzheimer's,
Yeah.
where they sometimes will like not even know where they are, and they will be so
Hmm.
confused. One of my best friend's mother before she passed away, she had dementia too, and
Hmm.
just you know knowing that at one point she didn't know anybody around her really, and she didn't even know where she was, and seeing these people like completely confused, they know they're saying a word, they
Hmm.
know that they're trying to say other words, but they just keep repeating a random word over and over again, and that confusion in their face, they get so frustrated, and for some reason this virus makes them so frustrated to the point where they just want to eat other people's mouths and then rip out people's
Right.
throats because they can't get out the words themselves. And
Right.
that's one brutal thing about this virus, is that's what it does. It travels through sound. Through when we understand a word, that's when it takes us over. And for some
Hmm.
reason, it chose the English language. So in here, the two main characters, the two survivors in here, Grant Mazzy and Sydney Breyer. Well, Sydney tries to get Grant to speak French. He does not know French very well. he knows.
He does better than I do.
Yeah, I mean, knows a little bit of French, but he's looking
Mhm.
at her going, "Yeah, just a little bit. I can't speak,
Yeah.
conversational wise. You're gonna have to work with me on this."
Hmm.
He's struggling through, the movie, trying to, understand what she's saying in French, and also trying to, relay that back. But it is interesting that it shows the English language. They also start writing on the walls, so there's a bunch of writing that they're trying to, say, go like, let's get out here, or um, you know, I guess, you know people that have passed away or anything else like that that they want to say out loud, but they can't say, they can't speak it.
Hmm.
Uh,
Hmm.
then they get to a point where, in the movie, where he's back in the studio and is speaking on the radio, and he's talking about all the people that he's gotten reports in that have died and how they died and
Yeah.
who killed them. It's like, whoa, somebody was really like out in the field and really, pulled all this information on
Yeah, that was a really cool. I enjoyed that part of the movie, the way that they did it, where they, kind of cut to black and white and they showed individual, these groups of families, and he's almost reading it like an obituary. And I'm a little, morbid of a human being. It's one of my favorite reads is, to look up obituaries and kind of hear that legacy of someone. Um, so with him, cycling through the news of the day, but in more of an obituary style format, the way that they presented the pictures of all of these different families, and then cut to a different family, and how everybody's connected through, through the virus, through, who succumbs to who. It was a really, I don't think I've ever seen anything like that in a movie before. I thought that was a pretty interesting little piece of cinematography.
Yeah, I did too. And I think another thing that really creates the atmosphere is Cloud. I think Cloud Foisey. I think that's how you say his name, or Claude Foisey. Um, the music production in here, um, really creates the atmosphere, especially for the last part. There goes my cat again. She talks a lot. She's yeah, it's unfortunate. But let's
You
see.
can't you can't be infected by that.
I can't be infected because
Feline
I,
is
I don't I don't understand exactly what she's saying. Well, I think I do understand a little bit what she's saying. She says,
feed me.
she's a little blind. She's a little blind, so she can't see very
Aw,
much. Yeah, so sometimes she gets kind of confused in where she is.
aw.
So we have the music that really builds the atmosphere, and especially in the last scenes, um, the score rises up almost over a lot of the characters' voices, and really puts you in that like mode of things are starting to really ramp up. Like you can the
Hmm.
place is starting to shake because you know the military is really firebombing the area. They're firing their missiles at the civilians because at the infected and everything. You can see dust come off the walls and everything. And
Yeah, it is well done. It's subtle too, the pickup of it, because, much of the beginning of the movie, you're just listening to the sounds of the station. So I appreciated that too. It was a nice build up for sure, but it happens in such a way that, like, oh my gosh, there is a score to this movie, and it's making me feel some sort of way. It's not over present where it doesn't need to be.
yeah, and it becomes part of the movie instead of just like
Hmm.
something that's overlapping and it has nothing to do with the film. It really works in with
Yeah.
the film. And so Grant and Sydney discover that they can probably figure. Trying to figure out exactly what this virus is, and then they start to come to a point where they realize it works on understanding the word and that the words that are spoken, and that's where the infection comes from. So they start to switch up the meanings of words, like um, kill now means kiss, and they're starting to figure out that, oh, if we say some things they're not exactly the opposite, but try to confuse that, the meaning of the words, maybe that will cure it. Maybe that will be, you know, all the symptoms that people are having. They'll get confused. The virus will get confused with the actual meanings, and maybe it will go away. So he gets back on the broadcast, like it's like an everyday thing that he does all the time, and starts to, shout out, all through the radio waves, words, and confusing the meaning of those words. First, he has to figure out exactly how he's going to do it, and then finally gets, on a, you know, he finally is able to figure out. Okay, so if it means this, it means a different thing. It means this, it means a different thing. I thought it was a
Hmm.
clever, scene right there. It seemed like Sydney and Mazzy were finally like meshing well together as like a producer
Yeah.
and a shock jockey.
At the bitter end. They're ping ponging. It's like I don't. It feels like a crafty game of headbands or or $1,000 pyramid, whatever that show was. They're shouting out words, but none of the meanings have any meaning whatsoever. But that's the right answer, and then do another one and another. It's an interesting back and forth for sure. I also thought that was a really clever kind of way to fight back against. I mean, the entire movie is so clever uh, with this notion, like you said, of zombies. We've seen it done a lot of different ways, but we've never seen it done like this for sure.
Oh yeah, most definitely. And in the very end, it seems like their their way to actually try to defeat it actually, at least it defeats it in that area. They're
Yeah, maybe they're winning
confusing.
the war.
Maybe they're winning the war because all of a sudden the missiles stop, and the um, at first, the military is telling them to turn the broadcast off, to stop, shouting out these random words, but they're not going to
Mhm.
stop. They want to try to get rid of this. They're trying to kill it and kill the meaning of words, to kill this virus. And then all of a sudden, it just like it stops, and at the very end, Cindy comes into the booth and gives Mazzy a big kiss, which kiss means kill. um, but it's different in the alternate ending. Actually, the alternate ending for the radio play is actually a much darker
Yeah,
ending, and let's just say nobody makes it in that one.
yeah. No, I that I was telling you before we started recording. It was so completely similar. The same actors for the radio play as what was used in the movie, and so much of the script was spot on, exactly the same. That I had listened to this years ago. I don't think it was right when it first came out, but it would have been, maybe I don't know. I listened to it on my cell phone, so maybe 10 years ago, and had not watched the movie. And so actually I re-listened to it and then watched the movie, and I thought, oh gosh, am I just not watching the pictures when I'm listening to the radio broadcast? Is that all it was? Is just you're listening to the audio of the movie? Until some of these things, I thought some pieces were missing, but the ending certainly is when all came, it rang true that, yeah, oh my gosh, they're not going to make it.
Hmm.
But I kind of got the feeling that at the end of the movie, to me, I got the feeling that they were going to, be the victim of a mass bombing at the end of the movie. Maybe I just listened to maybe words lost all meaning to me.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, the way that ends, and then the screen fades to black
Hmm.
is this truly like, is everyone, are they okay? Are they going to be okay?
Hmm.
Because it is a horror movie, and you never know. And
Hmm.
if you actually wait till the credits, I don't know if you waited through the credits. It the virus actually gets past the quarantine of Pontypool and starts to affect even England. So Nigel from the
Oh,
BBC, if you go through like the mid credits, you can hear him speaking, and then he just keeps repeating word, you know,
oh
which
no.
yeah, which means it's not done. It's not over. And then it's a very I don't know what they're really trying to say at the very end, because there's a post credit scene at the very end of this
Hmm.
movie where it shows Cindy and Grant in this weird almost looks like something from Sin City. They're playing these characters that Sydney is now called Lisa the Killer, and Grant is
What?
Johnny Dead Eyes. And it starts off in black and white, and they look like they're sitting at a bar. It is a very
Okay.
strange ending, and then all of a sudden it fades from like black and white to color. So
Okay. Well, I know what I'll be doing tonight.
just watching the ending, you're going like, well, you're like, why are you zooming all the way to
Hmm.
the credits? Well, because yeah, JPOOL said watch the credits and also watch the end. I don't
Yeah.
personally understand what's going on. I tried to look into it, and I'm like, I'm gonna have to watch another video of this to see what I missed and to see why the ending is the way it is. Uh,
Hmm.
but
Interesting.
yeah, with the radio play, the ending here for them is, um, unfortunately, Grant has to, you know, kill Sydney,
Kiss.
kiss Sydney, yes,
Hmm.
and he gets infected and ends up, succumbing to it, um, by I guess through the word paper,
Yeah.
and but his final I guess word that he says at the end is trap.
Hmm.
So it ends differently in the radio play compared to the film. But yeah, you're gonna have to watch at the very end if you didn't stay for the credits. This actually, unfortunately, I try to find this movie at Zia, which is my like local like
Hmm.
used DVD Blu-ray store, and nobody has it anywhere. So
Hmm.
yeah, I was trying to own it physically, because I rented this movie a while back, and
Gotcha.
you can't really rent anything these days because most of the video stores
Right.
are gone. Uh,
Right. R.I.P.
R.I.P.
R.I.P. video store.
R.I.P. No, I remember, Friday nights, my friend and I, we would,
Hmm.
pick up a horror movie and right next door get some Sardella's pizza. Or no, first go to Sardella's
Yeah.
pizza, wait for that to cook, go next door to Blockbuster, get a couple
Hmm.
movies, then go back, get the pizza, and then walk back to his place. And
Yeah.
and watch horror movies.
I was always in trouble because I inevitably had lost a movie from Movieola, which was our, local video store. And we, much like the library ringing up your tab for days not returned, I would have these horrible, $15. Lindsay, what are you but yeah, the movies, and that's kind of an interesting thing too, with the fact that Grant at the end of the radio play ends it with this, he starts struggling with word paper because here we are back in 2008, a different time when really, radio, shock jocks, all of this kind of stuff. It was that television and paper, magazines, newspaper.
Yep.
So something the other way to tell news is kind of how he's taken out. You wonder if I don't remember what you said the sequels were going to be called if they ever get developed, but if the ending word that kills off somebody is going to be TikTok or
Oh no, no, oh, that would be horrible. No,
or maybe they're on social media and they get taken out by like AM radio.
we're just all screwed because of all the social media we have
Right?
these days. There's no way getting out of that.
Doomed. Yeah, doomed.
Doomed. All
So
right.
off the grid.
So before we end this podcast, what are your final thoughts and rating for this film?
I really liked watching the movie. Like I said, I had this moment of like, oh gosh, is this literally the same thing that I've now listened to twice? And I'm just watching it. But seeing the alternate ending was great. And honestly, the lack of overproduction with this film, I think was one of the best things about it. We get so accustomed to all of the special effects, and we're spoiled, right?
Yeah.
And the fact that it's kind of simply made, and it's a simple story, and a lot of the story is left up to your imagination, I think is one of the best things about it. I really, really enjoyed it, honestly. High praises. Do you want me to rate? Should I rate now?
Oh yeah, and I'll give my thoughts.
Okay, officially, I would say I probably give this like we haven't done this yet, but I'm gonna do like a 7.5. It feels 7 is too low to give it, but 8. Gosh, now we're in like the best of the best territory up there. But I think it's unexpected. It's imaginative. How many times can we do a different take on the infection, the contagion? And this is super different to the point where, like I said, all weekend I kept thinking about it all over again. And what other meanings, is this really speaking to in society? And it's a thinker for sure. I really enjoyed it, so I'd go with 7.5.
Nice. Yeah. I personally, for me, I there's hard to be. It's very hard these days to be original.
Hmm.
Originality doesn't exist a lot these days in Hollywood. So to have a somewhat original idea and a different take on the zombie virus, um, is always interesting to me. Or when it when you see a movie like Bird Box or something like that, and like creatures that you can't look at otherwise, so you like go insane or something to that effect. Something original, an original idea. And in this case, we have it's sound, and we really never dealt with something to this effect where it can affect you with the meaning of words and stuff. And I thought it was a really interesting take when I first saw it, and I'm like, wow, this will be very, very memorable later on. And if I ever see any other horror movies later on, I will still like recommend this film to people if they hadn't seen it, because I, zombies have been beaten into the ground. I'm sorry to say,
Hmm.
ever since Night of the Living
Yeah.
Dead, zombies have been, they they've done almost everything you can with zombies. They've made scary zombies. They've made running zombies. They've made sexy zombies that can somehow become human again.
Hmm.
Warm
Funny
bodies.
zombies.
Warm bodies. I'm
Yeah, I
talking
love
about.
Warm Bodies.
Yeah,
Great flick.
I love that film.
Hmm.
They've made funny zombies. They've made zombies that can talk. They made zombies that can think in such a
Run.
way where they can run a society.
Hmm.
They've made really poorly CGI'd zombies. Like I said, they've made a television show about zombies, um, which had several spin-offs and it's still going, aka Walking Dead.
Hmm.
um, but here we have a different take, and I really appreciated the director in here, Bruce McDonald, what he did with Tony Burgess' story, and Stephen McHattie really was the centerpiece of this. Without his voice, without his acting, I don't think this film would really have worked. And especially with his now wife, I thought Lisa Howell did a good job, like working off of him. I don't know if he was married to her at around this time. Um, when was he married to her? I don't know if he was married to her around this time. I'm looking up his profile. It doesn't say the date when he got married to her, but I thought they worked off each other really well, and it was
Hmm.
really cute relationship they had in the movie, because at first you didn't know
Yeah.
if they were even a couple.
Right.
So as far as my rating for horror films, and you said when you get into a certain range, it's like some of the best of the best. But I personally would put this at an 8.
Oh wow,
Yeah, an
okay.
8 out of 10 because of its originality, of
Hmm.
the isolation that everybody had to go through because it just took place in one area, one building. Um, you know, I don't know where that $950,000 went.
Right,
But
right. Like, it almost feels like they got the return and the production cost backwards.
yeah, I'm like, wait a minute, where is all the yeah, pretty much everything in here is done either by like quote unquote radio play or by like practical effects, and
Hmm.
maybe it was the budget went to Stephen McHattie just to get him. I don't know, but
Perhaps. I mean, great
perhaps.
casting.
Yeah,
Touche.
touche. But like, oh, most of our production it goes to his budget. So yeah,
Mhm.
there we go. Uh, but no, I think that this movie deserves an 8 out of 10, and I highly recommend it to anybody, even that if they don't like the zombie trope. This is something completely different and out of the box, and um, I think a lot of people will enjoy this film if you're able to find it or you're able to like rent it off like Amazon Prime or something like that. I think this
Mhm.
is on. I think that I don't know if you can find this on Shutter. You might be able to find this
It's
on
on
Shutter.
Shutter.
It's on Shutter because I don't
That's
have
where I
Shut.
watched it. Yeah.
I don't have Shutter.
Mhm.
So I'm thinking there's a lot of horror movies that are on Shutter. I just don't have Shutter myself. Um,
Mhm.
but if you're able to watch this, especially on Shutter, I highly recommend it. And yeah, that's basically my rating. It's just I love this
Mhm.
film, and I talk about it a lot when anybody else brings up zombie films. This is one of the films I always bring up.
Hmm. Yeah, this one can't, to your point about it being original, it also, so many times when a zombie movie, a new idea is done, that new idea gets done to death. And no one can redo this without it being an obvious correlation to where it came to. So I don't think it will ever be redone unless it's sort of a sequel or a prequel.
Or
So yeah, absolutely.
remake somehow.
Right. Right, right. Yeah, I mean, again, 2008, it doesn't seem like it was that long ago, but I guess it really was. And to Jay Pool's point, watch all the way through.
Yeah, definitely. Watch
Don't
all the way to the
turn off the
credits.
credits.
All right. Well, that is our ratings and our final thoughts. Thank you, LC, for joining me tonight for our review of Pontypool. This film is one of the, like I said, this is, I really enjoyed this film personally, and I will talk somebody's ear off about this film.
Mhm.
Even longer than like an hour podcast. I will literally talk somebody's ear off if they are bringing up like, what is your favorite zombie films? I'm like, well, you probably haven't heard of this film, or maybe you have. It's called Pontypool. They're like,
You
Pontypool?
talk
What is
straight up.
that?
Right,
Does it have to
right.
do something with a pool or something like that? Like, well, I'll have to explain it to you. But yeah, whenever I can get somebody to actually watch this film that hasn't seen it and get their reaction, a lot of times they come back to me going, "Wow, that is a really good take on the zombie genre." And I'm like, "Yeah, I know. Yeah, and
Mhm.
that's like that's why I wanted you to see it because I know you they've beaten that dead horse or beaten that dead zombie so
Mhm.
many times into the ground, and you
Right.
need something to more than just running zombies, more than just supernatural infected zombies. We need something a little different, and this one hasn't been replicated since then. And um, I don't know if it ever will, unless like you said, ever have a sequel. So
Mhm.
I hope you have a good night, and I hope our listeners, because they can't see me right now, our listeners and our viewers have a good night as well. And thank you for watching our review of Pontypool. And remember to enjoy your chimichanga.